Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Sanjeev Goel from Peak Human Labs podcast. And today we're talking about something that's really dear to my heart. And what better person to be here than my best friend, Neeraj Jain.
Hi, everyone.
And so as you know, I'm a physician. I have a particular interest in technology and biohacking. And now today we're going to be talking about technology and potentially the negative effects of that addiction. Let's get started. I mean, why did you want to even come onto this show with me? And maybe you want to introduce yourself too, a little bit about you. That would be, I think, helpful.
Sure. My name is Neeraj. I'm an engineer, so very into the world of technology. In fact, I love technology. But I think, Sanjeev and I have been sharing a concern recently where we see our children are constantly on technology. And I guess it goes beyond our children as well. We see adults who sometimes, instead of engaging with other people, they're really just engaging through their phones.
Right.
And so I have a concern. I wonder, is this a good thing?
Mm-hmm. And what's very interesting is that I started a Facebook group about 6 months ago, and I just throw it out there that this is a concern of mine. My kid's always on Fortnite. Oh. And Vio, I know if you're listening, it's okay. Don't worry. And I got like 90 parents signed up within just a few days. Like I didn't do anything more than say I'm starting this support group for parents who are concerned about their kids being on Fortnite. And so I think this is a huge concern. And when I went to the school and they said to me, look, you know what? Yeah, we know it's a concern, but we don't know what to do. And then I went to my kid's high school. He's going to grade 9. And I said, yeah, what are you guys doing about this? I said, well, I don't know. Why don't you join the parents' council? Like, we don't know what to do about this issue.
Well, it's difficult for the school to control that, right? This is something that the kids are doing after school. Mm-hmm. I know, I was talking to a friend, and his kid plays Fortnite every single night for a couple of hours. Mm-hmm. I thought that's quite a lot. My son's not allowed to play during the week. He's only allowed to play on the weekend. Yeah. And he said, I know it's a lot, but I can't help it because all his friends are playing.
That's a big issue. Yeah. I felt that, my son comes to me and said, my friends are on. Can I not get on because they're on? Because it's a game that requires you to play with other people.
Right.
And then you feel kind of like you're leaving them out.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the challenges I face with this, because a lot of the technology is designed to be social, and you don't want your child to be out of the group or, not understanding what's happening. But at the same time, is that really the best way to be social?
Right. Even a parent came to me, who said that, I actually told my kid to go and get good on Fortnite because I was afraid of them being left out.
Wow.
So it can be, if you are being left out, you don't know what's happening, and you go talk with the kids in the school, and then you feel like, what's going on.
I know we're going to talk about positive and negative things about technology, but I met this other young man recently, 18 years old, right? Very shy, just could barely have a conversation. Mm-hmm. But then I was talking to his father, and he said he's a top 10 player in, I forget what game it was now, I think Call of Duty or something.
Yeah, okay, right.
He's a top 10 player in Canada, and he makes money playing, like from tournaments and streaming and whatever. And apparently, it's a social game. And when he's playing, he's a different person. He's in command. Like, he's telling everyone else what to do. Yeah. And so, I thought, wow, that's really interesting. Like, otherwise, this kid may not have had that outlet. He would only see himself as this shy person. Mm-hmm. So, maybe there are some advantages.
Yeah. There's a whole thing now about, and again, I know we're digressing here, but about in Wired magazine about the actual leagues, like where people are competing in North America now, where people I think California, 5 or 6 kids. There's one Canadian kid now who's like, these kids like book they're shacked up into a house, and every day that's all they're doing, 7-8 hours.
So they're training.
They're getting paid, yeah.
Wow.
I think paid like $60,000-$70,000. Wow. To be professional League of Legends players.
So, maybe we're going to get to this, but we're talking about screen time or technology very generally.
You're right.
But so part of the reason I'm concerned is, I also see a lot of people spending time just watching YouTube or flicking through Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is. You could just see them scrolling. And to me, that's the stuff that when I see that, I kind of cringe.
Yeah. And to be honest, I'm even finding I just find sometimes I just pick up the phone. check my email right away on it. Like there's no reason. I don't have to keep checking it, but I find like even I'm catching myself that's becoming a problem.
So, well, actually, I think that's a really important point. Like, it literally is an addiction, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny because I kept hearing people talk about Candy Crush.
Yeah.
This was a few years ago, right? I'm like, what the heck is Candy Crush? It looks so stupid to me, but
Yeah.
I'm like, I just want to find out.
Mm-hmm.
So I started playing it, and I loved it. I was playing all the time. And finally got to a point where, like any moment I had where it was a bit of downtime, I'd pick up my phone and start playing Candy Crush.
And you were sending Facebook requests to all your friends to join.
No,
Whenever I see those Facebook requests, I say, "Oh my God, this person must be addicted."
But so like I consider myself to have the kind of person I don't easily get addicted to things.
Right.
And I didn't think I was addicted. I said the classic, I could stop anytime. And so my wife kind of challenged me. She said, "We really will do it." And I said, "Okay, I will." And at first I just said, "I'm not going to play it," but it was still on my phone. I played it. And then finally I deleted it.
Right.
And I knew I was addicted after that because it took me, I'm going to say about 2 weeks before I stopped having the urge to pick up my phone to play Candy Crush.
Right.
And so I realized, that's not a good thing for me.
I think addiction, it's like I've experienced addiction too. So with playing Civilization,
Right.
where I spent a whole summer I lost,
Right.
and I had to delete it off the computer. So I think it's existed before. It's just perhaps the degree it's much higher, and it's more ubiquitous than ever. Like this technology, the way we're addicted to it. And
I think the fact that it's in our pocket has certainly made it more addictive, right? Like before, when you played Civilization, you still had to go to the big PC, turn it on, wait for it to boot up.
That's right.
So there was that moment where you could still kind of catch yourself and maybe.
Yeah, and if I was not at home, I couldn't play.
Right.
I couldn't do anywhere else. And like, remember when we used to load on the Commodore 64, load a game, it took 15 minutes.
So be very deliberate about it.
Yeah. And once you were out in about 30 seconds, you have to load another 15 minutes. So it's much harder, I think, in those days.
And I think the creators of a lot of this technology are capitalizing on the fact that we use our phones in that way. Mm-hmm. That, I'm waiting for the bus, so let me just look at my phone. Or, I don't know, I'm going to the washroom, let me look at my phone. Right. And they're capturing all these little moments of our time.
Yeah. So I think we had a couple of things we wanted to hit. And I think one little thing that, I brought up Fortnite, and one of the things that actually really was interesting that happened, I think about a month ago or so. But there was this picture that was showed up on Instagram called the world's biggest egg.
Right.
If you heard about this thing. Yeah. But this egg, it's a very simple picture, and it had over 50 million Instagram likes.
Right.
And apparently, I don't know, people were like forwarding it. I know the kids had showed it to me, and they were liking it and forwarding to their friends and stuff. But the whole point of this egg, I understood, was that it was meant to be like make a mockery in effect of all the celebrity stuff about how Kyle Jenner and the Kardashians, how people are always after celebrity, but this very simple egg picture had 50 million likes. So it's just, I think in a way it was mocking it.
Right.
But it still showed how something can go viral and just.
So the point of it was to show that the likes really don't mean anything.
I think that's
like you can get that in a different kind of way.
Yeah, so I think in effect the kids in some ways were, if they were catching into that, or were they just being a tool of the people who put that picture, I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm not sure the kids really understood why they were liking this thing.
Right.
But the people who put it together were making a point.
Yeah. And I guess that's the big challenge, right? Is how is technology impacting the kids? Because their brains are still forming. And we were talking earlier about how the brain changes depending on the technologies you use. Maybe do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we know that the brain is now changeable. It used to be that we used to think that brains, you never grow any more brain cells, but I think that's changed now. And they looked at taxi drivers after 10 years in the UK, and they saw that a particular part of their brain was different than other people because they had to memorize all the directions. So they looked at people who have a different language, and like English versus Italian, their brains are a little bit different, or Chinese language is based more on characters. Different parts of the brains get activated, and so I think that like how we interact with the environment does change the brain. And likely technology is doing the same thing. And we seem to be having some good evidence of that as well.
Well, okay, so let me ask you, like, is that bad? Because we know that the brain changes. Obviously, if you're a taxi driver in London and you have to know all the roads, your brain has to be really, I guess, tuned to that. Whereas if you're, I don't know, a chef,
Right.
you're going to be tuned to that. So are we just tuning sort of for technology?
Yeah.
Or does it have other impacts? Like, can a taxi driver in London do other things well that someone else can't? Unrelated
Well,
tasks.
yeah, I think change in itself isn't bad because we can't say that right now this is the optimal brain that we have. So, but and the humans have had to deal with technology, and their brain has changed. Has changed from previous. For example, like writing resulted in less our ability in our brain to remember like full stories and novels that they used to be able to do. So, that debate has occurred in the past. Now, whether it's bad or good, this is a bit difficult, but there are some concerning signs. Like the nature of this technology is more focused on taking the attention and maybe and moving it around. So I think some of the studies have shown that you might be better at multitasking, but perhaps not as good at deep learning.
So maybe we should talk about the difference between the technology itself, the platform of the internet, versus the applications on
Right.
it. Because it's interesting about the taxi drivers or the stories, the written stories, making us, I guess, less good or worse at remembering things. I mean, now a lot of the information I need to know is no longer in my brain.
Yeah, like do you remember? Like I could tell you your phone number,
Right.
but I wouldn't be able to tell you more than five other people's phone numbers.
Right.
Now. Whereas when I was a kid, I knew like at least 20, 30 phone numbers easily.
Yeah.
And I had to. Like my dad's one of the first things he said, this is your phone number, remember, in case you get lost.
Yeah.
And I had to like recite it a few times, and then I knew it. Like I'm just saying, I don't even know if my kids, how many phone numbers they know. So I think it's what we call the working memory. The working memory may be actually getting shrinking. So this is the memory that allows, how much can you actually remember?
But, on the other hand, could it be increasing in other ways? Like, I don't know, I remember certain websites
Yeah, like I mean, we might be getting. I don't know if memory is necessarily increasing. I'm concerned that it may be decreasing. Maybe getting better at like integrating different aspects of like knowledge, like finding information quicker. But I'm concerned that the working memory, like I've the traditional. I think 50 years ago they looked and said, okay, you could remember 7 digits. Like that was considered a normal working memory. I think this thing now it's about 2 to 4.
Really?
So I don't know, like sometimes I have to memorize a phone number to like add in the the access code on and I find difficulty remembering the full code. I have to like go back there, write it down. So I don't know if this is
we're not in
me.
practice of doing that now.
Yeah, is it me or is it everyone?
We're looking at a study that showed that increased screen time is correlated with lower grades.
Right.
So, maybe it has to do with that.
Yeah, probably deep learning, isn't it? I mean, this is they did some study. They looked at people who read on a web page and people who read from a book, and what they found was that just by having the hyperlinks in the text, even if you didn't click on the hyperlinks,
Okay.
you end up grasping less of what was in the content. When they came back to me and said, what did you learn from that page? People who read from book grasp more. And just because every time you see the hyperlink, your brain has to think, should I click on it or not?
Right.
And that takes extra space. So it's like we have a certain amount of brain processing power. If that brain processing power is being deviated to do other things, then it leaves less time for like dealing with the learning aspect. So I think so even just the presentation of the technology is actually probably doing it. I think it's the nature of the technology.
So I read this thing a while ago that they found, it was very strange. I don't even know how they discovered this, but playing Tetris could help alleviate some symptoms of PTSD. But you had to play Tetris very soon after the traumatic experience happened.
Wow.
And so the theory was that it was impacting how those memories were stored.
Right.
Right. And so, I mean, that sounds like a good outcome, but it really made me wonder that, wait, so if I just spent all day at school and then I come home and play Tetris or some other game, they use Tetris, I'm sure it could be any other game.
Mm-hmm.
Is that again impeding the storing of what I learned that day?
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, in this case, you said that Tetris was helping with forming memories, right?
No, stopping the formation of the traumatic memory.
Yes, interesting. Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's extremely interesting. I don't know how if it can do that afterwards, after the.
Well, we know that memories are sort of consolidated
After.
during sleep, right?
Right.
And so maybe if you're especially, one thing I really prefer that my kids don't do is use screens before bed. I mean, we know that that's going to disrupt their sleep.
Yeah.
But I'm also thinking that it may be disrupting
Learning.
the learning, the storing of that learning, the consolidation of that into their brains.
Yeah, I think it's we don't understand yet how the brain is processing all that and puts it together in a specific area to be recalled. We don't really get that.
It's a giant experiment.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a theme that I want to put forward, is that we're playing one. This is a huge experiment on the human brain that we don't really know what's going to happen.
Right.
Like in 10 years, we've gone from, like, I think it was 2007, we had an iPhone that first came out, and now
Right.
12 years later, it was basically ubiquitous.
Yeah.
We want to talk a little bit about, I guess, that, we're raising the alarm, but I think other people are raising the alarm as well. Like, I mean, this is not something now that's just us sitting here in this room talking about. This is becoming,
Right.
I think this is becoming a major issue. Like, the new Apple iPhone has an app. I think the companies are under pressure to, like, put some of this monitoring of screen time in the phones and stuff like that.
Well, I think that's a good point because, is it, when Facebook designs their pages, they design it for maximum attention. Like, they want to keep you on the page as long as possible.
Right.
And the more we succumb to that, the more we allow it, the more they're going to do that. But as this outcry starts, you see, well, because they're all commercial companies, they're trying to make money. And if people start creating a backlash, that scares them. So they have to put in something. So I've tried the screen time app on Apple, and it's actually not bad. You can limit how much time the kids have on, or not even just the kids, yourself, on different categories of applications. You can have downtime set. So
Yeah.
it's a start.
Yeah, I have mine set up that, it's tracking how many pickups. Every time I pick up, I'm hitting about 40 pickups a day. But I have this thing after an hour on any application, it's gotta ask me, do I want to open it? Most times I always say I ignore for today, but but just the fact that I have to do that, somewhere sending a signal to me, that hey, I've gone over my limit for today.
Right.
How come it's happened, at this time of the day already, or something like that?
It's a form of feedback for sure.
Yeah. And then any of you out there want to learn more on this topic, Tristan Harris is like an expert on this. He's a god, and he has started this initiative called Time Well Spent. You want to chat a little bit about stats, or you want me to do that?
Yeah.
I think I was seeing a study. These are all old numbers, but 2009 they said about 2,500 texts per month is an average teen.
Oh, that number's got to be much higher now.
That's probably like double at least, and I think the number of hours per week in that study was about 2 to 3 hours a day, and I would say that's probably underestimating it now.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you look at just screen time, it's got to be higher than that because we use it for everything. Right.
Yeah. So I think there's definitely an issue, which never has happened before with any other technology medium.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked a little bit about that, what makes the internet different than and social media different than what's come before it. And I think we talked about, that it allows, it gives you very quick access to information, which is, I think, different than the past. It is more interactive. Like the TV was much more passive in some manner.
Which could be seen as a positive, that it's interactive.
Yeah. It allows you to connect with other people. Yeah. I think that didn't exist before as well. Maybe that's what makes it very, very addicting.
Yeah, I feel that they've really figured out how to hack the human brain because we're designed for certain kinds of behaviors, and I think something like Facebook or Instagram, gossip, it serves a purpose in a small group. If you have a tribe of 150 people, you need to understand the gossip so you know how to behave with the different members of the tribe, and so I think that's why as humans we're generally quite drawn to that. And I think Facebook, Instagram, a lot of these things, they create a forum for gossip. And so I think naturally our human brain has a tendency to go for that. The other thing I find is there's sort of the infinite nature of it. Like, I can keep scrolling forever, right? There's just so much content.
Right.
There's so much content. And then I think that whole serotonin rush comes in because, oh, this is boring. Oh, wow, look at this. And they'll catch you there.
There's very interesting, I was reading about this like thing. So obviously they programmed it so that this likes really causes that surge of the happy chemical in our brain. And so there's a guy who's developed this app that removes the like function. So you don't get that like.
Okay.
You get everything else. You can post, but you don't even know how many people like your post. And apparently like it takes away a lot of pleasure. Because you just don't know what happened. Like we love the feedback when we make a post, and every time we get a like, it's actually building. That's what's the real super addiction piece. So I think the guy who tested it out, he basically said he had to just go back to the regular. He couldn't. He couldn't deal with it.
Another interesting thing, and you could try this yourself, is set your screen to just pure black and white. It's a really strange thing. So I did it, and
it's no color. You mean?
Yeah, no color, just black and white screen. And I found myself less interested. In fact, there was a part of me that actually almost disliked using my phone after that. But I couldn't stick with it. Which, maybe I should. Maybe it would have helped me reduce the amount I use it. I would only use it for necessary tasks.
Well, I wonder what when the tech gods like Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, who were like Steve Jobs didn't allow his kid to use an iPad. That's what they say. Mark Zuckerberg just wrote his newborn a letter saying that she should go outside and play instead of using technology. Like, what do you think about that? Do they know something we don't know? Or the general public? Is it that they're just, like, why is it that, they're in this field?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Steve Jobs one I find a little more interesting just because he was developing these products, right? And he would maybe even just want to see how your kid interacted with it. The Zuckerberg thing, I don't find that strange. I mean, I want my kids to go outside, which is, part of the reason that this is concerning, because it's not that it's necessarily bad, but you have an opportunity cost.
Opportunity. I think that's a critical piece, opportunity cost. Because if you could do all of it, then maybe that's okay.
Right. Maybe.
Yeah.
But certainly, if they're spending 3 or 4 hours a day on the screen, well, they certainly are not going to have time to go outside and play and, what did he write? Smell the roses or whatever. So that's what, I think we all know intuitively or maybe through experience that what are the things that bring us pleasure in life? It's meeting people face to face. It's going outside in nature. It's those kinds of things. And I think that's what we're worried that our kids won't have enough of, or we as a society will start losing.
But I think there's good research. Like the kids who are on social media directly linked to, a depressed mood and feelings of, not being in. And I mean, I think that we have good research now that we're actually probably helping, kids are becoming more depressed with technology, especially social media.
So if this is all true, why are we on it? Like, there is some value, but maybe we have to just find a way to curtail it a little bit.
Well, we had this chat, a WhatsApp chat. We put a little challenge out. Who would give up their social media and for how much money?
Oh, right.
So I mean, the thing is, I don't know how. I mean, it requires. It would require people. Nobody was willing to take it up, right?
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of benefit to it. I'm in touch with a lot of friends that I wouldn't have been. Like, they've moved to different parts of the world.
Yes.
Some friends, they're more acquaintances, but because they're part of a chat group or something, I get to know them a little bit better.
I finally got my mom on WhatsApp.
Okay.
And she's loving it.
Yeah.
Like, she's got, contact with her relatives in India that she would normally not talk to.
Right.
And every time there's a birthday, we got 50 happy birthdays going on.
Everyone's got to wish happy birthday. Actually, that's where you should just be able to like the happy birthday.
That's it. But anyways, yeah, okay. We talked about this. I think the the effect, I would say that what's concerning me is that the effect of our attention, because we only have so much attention span, and we don't know what's going on with that. I do feel the kids are, and even myself, are, we're not creating as much. Like we're consuming all this this tech, this content, and I would love. That's what I'm telling my kids. Please, like, I don't mind you getting on technology. I just want you to create the content. I want you to go and do something, and instead of just taking in what everyone's giving you. What do you think about that?
I really worry because I find marketers are getting smarter and smarter, and I think the more you consume, I think the more oblivious you become to how you're actually being manipulated. Right? There's so many things that we don't understand about the brain, and even maybe that they don't understand why, but because they can do A/B testing, they can know, oh, well, this word in this sentence, I increased my click-through rate by, X%, or I changed this image. Oh, that seems to attract, men over 35. And the amount of detail and, variation that they're able to put, like they can pretty much target you and make you want to buy this kind of product,
Yeah, so this comes down to, we have free will or not.
That's a topic for another podcast.
A different podcast, but isn't it? I mean, we may not have as much control of our life as and it's really an addiction. That's what.
But the more content we consume online, the more potential there is to be influenced by marketers.
Right. Subconsciously.
So
not. Yeah. So I mean, in effect,
and that's why sites like Facebook. Where you have these ads sometimes sort of built in, they're very subtle. I mean, a lot of studies have shown that if you can place a banner on a page and ask someone later whether they saw that banner or not, and they'll say no.
Right.
And then later you can test them to see whether they favor this store or that store.
Right.
And it'll still be the one that they saw, even though they don't remember seeing it.
I think that's a whole other. We should talk about that, because what we take in is really not what. What we think we're taking in is not really what we're probably taking in.
Right.
Like, our field of vision is taking us so much more information, but our brain is deciding that we're going to only focus on one little very specific aspect.
Our conscious brain.
Yes, our conscious brain. Our unconscious is taking in a whole bunch of other stuff that we may not be aware of.
So, I've started using. You can get these plugins for your browsers that block advertising. So I use a lot of that.
Which one do you use?
I think the one it's just called Ad Block.
Okay. Yeah,
so it just takes it right off the page. So I mean, it does a little bit. But the marketers are getting smart to that too. They find other ways to get their message across.
Right.
But yeah, I think technology can be a very effective tool. There's a lot of benefits to it, and I guess really that's what I want. I want my kids to use it in a more responsible way.
So what we wanted to leave some action items. So we're going to come up with some action items, and if you like this podcast, please feel free to comment in the thread, and we might put some show notes as well of some of the stuff that came out of the show. But let's talk about what are the steps we'd like to take, and then perhaps we're going to come back and revisit this topic in a couple of weeks or so. What are you thinking about?
Well, I'll tell you what I've done so far.
Right.
And this is really targeted at my kids, but maybe I need to have some rules for myself too. So the kids are not allowed to watch TV or play games during the week. They're allowed to use their phones for messaging. And then only on the weekend they can, they have about, I think we gave them 2.5 hours of screen time per day. And then I just started using the Apple Screen Time app to just really to help enforce these rules, because that's the problem with a small device. I don't know where they could be using the phone in another part of the house and I wouldn't know.
So can you actually just on the Apple Screen Time, can you actually say that it turns off after a certain amount of time, that they can't use it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I turned it on, and so immediately there was almost a cry, why can't I use my phone?
Right.
And so it just blocks them, but they can request more time.
Yes. So they can request through the app.
So if they're, I don't know, in the middle of a movie or something, I'll give them an extra 15 minutes or whatever to finish up. So that's one thing that we've done.
Is it working? What do you think? How's it?
It's only been a few days now with the Screen Time app. The sort of self-monitored restrictions were not working very well because they would lose track of time. I didn't have the bandwidth to constantly monitor how long they've been on.
Yeah.
So it was difficult. So I do appreciate having this tool. The other thing is, I've been having a lot of conversations with them about how can you use the screen to be, as a more productive way in your life. So that's what we've been doing so far.
Yeah.
Have you tried anything?
Yeah, I haven't. We've been talking about the screen time, but trying to make it a little bit of a competition. But one of the problems is my son's phone or my daughter's phone is too old. Like she has no space to download this app or something. I don't know if it's real, but that's an issue. But yeah, we're trying to make it a bit of a game to talking about it. But I should probably really enforce it that it actually turns off, and I haven't been doing that. And then I kind of want to get them to kind of talk, like debate the pros and cons amongst themselves. Like I want them maybe get involved in a discussion, so they can see both sides, and then on their own say, okay, this isn't kind of makes sense for me. They themselves see that the potential problem is there.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think that's important. I think the thing I struggle with is I think intellectually my kids get it. They understand what the problems are, and my whole story with Candy Crush. It's a bit of a joke in our house, but they get it. That even like me, who I understand the dangers of it very well. I was addicted to Candy Crush, but how intellectually you can understand something, but emotionally it's still difficult to give it up. Like sometimes you're tired, or you just it's so easy to go back to it.
So don't you think it needs to be like everybody in the house needs to be on the same like program? Like the same like the efforts. I mean, that's the issue. Like if you don't have like I find that I have work and work related stuff that I need to do, and they come back. Well, you're on the phone, so then why can't I be on the phone? So that's an issue. So
that's something we've talked about. We haven't done yet, but we've talked about all of us not turning off, but putting away our phones.
Yeah.
Maybe at 6:00.
Right.
And then having 20 minutes at some point before bed where you can just check your messages. And we haven't done that yet, but it's something we talked about.
Yeah, I think that's where I like to go with it. I'd like to figure out some of these like unplugged time, weekend time, or and a little maybe an hour or two in the evenings,
right?
And the rest of the time, they directly go on. Because what I find is that even watching television now, the kids are on their device, so they're not even watching the show that they used to watch closely, because they're watching two different things going on.
Right.
So I don't know how are they actually enjoying the show, so I think this is time that we'd spend together is actually not time being spent together anymore.
Right.
And that's what's really concerning. So I think the unplugged is where I could potentially see it, because it needs to happen at the same time, so we could all I could interact.
I think you could probably set up the Apple Screen Time app to do that, where everyone is, like you set certain hours. Okay, nobody's allowed to use, like all apps are disabled during this time. Yeah. Except for phone, because if someone needs to get a hold of you or whatever, you can. You can.
But how do we do it that everybody else also in the community agrees at the same time?
The community.
Well, I mean, because then it'd be nice if like your friends are, their friends are also off too. Then it becomes okay. We're all doing it together. Like then that. I almost think this almost needs intervention, like a community intervention. This is not even. It's like it takes a village to raise a child, right? Like it's almost at that level.
Why don't we start?
Yeah, I think so, because our kids are talking. If they say okay, they're doing it, so we'll do it too, and then it's and maybe we can push some friend circles as well. I think it'll help.
So I don't know, 6 to 8 o'clock. Just all apps turn off.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it.
All right, we're going to do it.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. And again, if you liked it, just message us in the comments, or you can reach out to me directly, and we'll let you know how our actions are going to be in the next episode. All right. Take care.
Great. Everyone. Thank you.